Straight talk from Israel. You're listening to Israel News Talk Radio.
Shalom, this is Natalie Sapinski, and you are listening to Returning Home. Last week we had our first show. This is our second show. I'm very excited to be back and to share life in Israel with all of you, all of our listeners. I am sitting here in my home in Susia in the southern Hebron Hills. Some of you may have been here, maybe even have been here with me. And some of you may have been here on your own or with groups. It's a beautiful part of the country. We're 20 minutes south of Kiryat Arba. And, the hills now these days in the summer are pretty much brown, covered with thorns. You see goats, you see the shepherds, you see the sheep. And it's funny because that's become beautiful to me. And I was raised with green grass and pavement and very structured and very manicured lawns. And here I am saying that rugged rocks and sheep are beautiful, but it's true. It really is true. You change, and I've changed. And when you come to Israel, you change. And you have to be open to that, and you don't even have to be ready for it. It's going to happen. If you're lucky, it happens. Israel's amazing. We have a special guest today, another foreigner, another Oleh, someone who moved to Israel. His name is Jonathan Wiesen. He lives in Gush Etzion, a beautiful region, about 40 minutes north from me. Lots of Americans there. Lots of Olim move there. And it's become a really very comfortable place to land and to live your life if you're American or an English speaker even. Well, he's a doctor. He's going to tell us what he does and what he has done. He's been here for 6 years. And he's going to tell you that he does telemedicine. I didn't know what telemedicine was. He'll explain it to us. And he has brought his family and he's built his life. And it's something that probably many people need to hear because there are a lot of Jewish doctors and some of them are very hesitant to come here because how are they going to work? They don't know Hebrew. They're not Israeli. Well, this guy can answer your questions because he did it. And I'm very happy to have him. We'll hear what he has to say. And please call in with questions. Look at the top of your screen and call. And we'll handle them right on the air. I can't wait. We'll be back soon.
G'day, I'm Jono Vandor.
And I'm Ross Nichols.
Join us on our program, Israel on My Mind, a show that broadcasts all the weekly goodness that flows like milk and honey from the Holy Land straight into your ears with humorous and happy news stories.
New shows are posted every Thursday at 7 p.m. Israel time, highlighting the lighter side and advancing a positive view of Israel here on Israel News Talk Radio.
Welcome back. We are here at Returning Home. I'm Natalie Sapinski, your host, and our guest today is Jonathan Wiesen. He lives here in Israel with me in the Gush Etzion region in the very popular Yishuv Efrat. Jonathan is a doctor, and he's going to tell us a little bit about his Aliyah experience and what he's done to become a success. Jonathan, why don't you say hello and start telling us exactly what you're doing these days?
Shalom. Well, thank you. I appreciate you guys having me on the call. And it's really a pleasure to be able to talk to people, help people, and educate people when they're thinking about Israel and coming home. In any way that I could be of assistance, I'd be more than happy to help out.
Wonderful.
So I, as you said, I am absolutely a physician, originally from Teaneck, New Jersey. I did my medical school in Einstein and then my residency and fellowship in Cleveland. As soon as we finished my training, We made Aliyah from Cleveland to Efrat, where we've been for the last 6 years. I still work clinically in the United States doing intensive care staffing work, both in Cleveland and also in some critical and rural locations, in Florida and in Louisiana. I work here clinically. I'm a staff pulmonologist at Soroka, where I'm also the head of the cardiopulmonary exercise test program.
Okay, amazing. I gotta jump in because Soroka is down here in Beersheba. It's a humongous hospital. It's 45 minutes. It's right here. I didn't know you worked down here, so that's amazing. If I can just back up, because some of our listeners may not be familiar with medical terminology, I for sure know I am not. When you say clinical, and when you're doing clinical work, do you mean that you're there in person with the patient? Is that what that means?
I am. Old school medicine, traditional medicine, brick and mortar medicine, however you want to define it, that's what it is, where I'm there in person, in the flesh, touching patients, listening to patients, speaking to them in the same area.
Okay, so you do that here and you do that in America, right?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, so you're one of these frequent flyers.
Yes, so I do go back to the States. Of course, pre-COVID, it was a different experience than post-COVID. It's the reality we live in.
Yeah, tell us what that was.
So before COVID, we felt like we had, a free pass to go wherever we wanted, whenever we wanted. I'd go back to the States about a week a month. I'd work for maybe 6 nights in the ICU, spend 1 or 2 days in business meetings at conferences, and then come back to Israel and, basically hit the ground running here as if I had never left, with a little bit of jet lag thrown into the mix. Now it's a different planet. You have 2 weeks of bidud when you come back to Israel. There's recommendations.
Slow down. Speaking Hebrew, Jonathan, wait, bidud. He means there's 2 weeks of isolation when you come back.
Yes.
Right. So you're stuck at home. You're in a room. Okay, go on.
Yeah. So there are recommendations in certain fields that when you go into the States, and different hospitals have different policies that you may have to do isolation in the States. I was allowed to work without going into isolation because, number one, I'm an essential worker. The ICU doctors are considered, absolute necessities and have more leniencies than some other members of the workforce. And I also had to get tested. And so as soon as I landed in Cleveland, I went straight to get my COVID testing. When it came back negative the next day, I was good to go, to start working.
So you're talking in the past, as if you did this in the past. Is this something that is going on now, and you're going to continue doing this as long as you can?
Yeah. For a couple of reasons. Number one, I love what I do, and I love doing it in the States. I love critical care. I enjoy working nights, and the hospitals that I work in really appreciate the work that I'm bringing to them. In addition to Cleveland, I also worked in Florida in a region which was very hard hit by COVID. We had 2 out of our 3 ICUs were full just with COVID patients. And so they really appreciate that I come and work clinically at the bedside when they really need the ICU expertise and staffing. And then also, financially, it's very nice. I have a good setup. They make it worth my while to go back. So for both of those reasons, it's something that I intend to continue doing, though, of course, a much more moderated, tempered, and different schedule than it was before COVID.
All right. So that's interesting that you're really continuing. You're really continuing your pattern. I didn't know that was going on. That's amazing. What have you done here on the ground? Can you tell us about the telemedicine and what that means and what you're doing?
Sure. So when I was a fellow, my friends and I had the idea of using technology to bring our expertise to the global arena. I founded the telemedicine company, sitting in Starbucks at the Cleveland Clinic.
I'm sure a lot of things happen at a Starbucks. Don't laugh. I mean, come on.
Yes, Yes, I kick myself to this day that I threw out the Starbucks napkin that I kept for about a year.
What were you
that
thinking?
famous napkin that everyone has.
Yeah. So go on.
So sorry, there's this car making noise in the background. Anyway, so I founded MediOrbis, which is my telemedicine company, a multi-specialty telemedicine company. We have clients in the United States and worldwide, providing all the different medical specialties.
So tell me how this works. If my mom has pain and she doesn't like her doctor, can she look up MediOrbis.com and get an opinion?
Yep, absolutely. So we can connect her with a doctor in almost any specialty for a second opinion evaluation for any of her medical questions, concerns, or diagnoses.
So it's like online medical care.
Exactly. It's the future of medicine. Well, actually, it's the current, state of medicine.
That's
With
right.
COVID, there's no such thing as like a brick and mortar clinic anymore.
That's right. Even, it doesn't even matter where you are. You could even, my mother-in-law, my parents are all in the States, and they can't even really go to their doctors. They've got to stay put.
Right.
So interesting. Tell me how a doctor who's making Aliyah can find you. A doctor who doesn't know how he's going to find work. He doesn't have Hebrew. He doesn't have any licenses, but he's been a doctor for 20 years in America, and he wants to come to Israel. What should he do? How should he contact you? Can you help him? Can you employ him? What kind of hope can you give some of these doctors?
Sure. So the first, I just want to reassure everyone and tell them that as much as we make fun of the work environment in Israel, that a lot of it is in jest, and physicians can come here, find work, find good opportunities, and be successful. Like anything in life, there are pros and cons to doing that. But I have many colleagues who made the decision that they didn't want to commute. They work here in Israel, and they're as happy as can be. You could be successful professionally. You could be successful financially. Again, it's a different setup. It's a different situation than in America. For example, primary care doctors, general family medicine doctors, pediatricians do much better than specialists, which is the inverse of what you have in the States. Specialists have to sort of build up their name and their reputation and find different hybrid between hospital work and clinic work. But it's absolutely doable, and you can do well doing it. The second thing is that there's a huge support system. You're not the first person to think of this. There's hundreds of doctors who have come on Aliyah, who have moved to Israel, and and have blazed a path that's unique for them and that's specific to them and what they want and their needs. There's a good support system in Nefesh B'Nefesh. Ronen Fuchsman and I are buddies. I used to go in every year to the medical Nefesh B'Nefesh conference and talk about how there are great opportunities, not just in clinical medicine in Israel, but in doing remote work, whether it's telemedicine, whether it's chart review work or utilization reviews, legal work. There's tons of opportunities for physicians to, earn income and be successful. And again, it's not like you're going to come here and starve. Will it be different than the States? Absolutely. And then everyone can make whatever decision fits for them, their family, their lifestyle, and it's just nice to at least know that there are options.
That's absolutely nice to know, and it's very important for people to hear that because, while I'd never heard of anyone making fun of being a doctor in Israel, for sure everyone knows there's socialized medicine here, and we pay very, very low costs for medicine. So you're thinking, how can a doctor make money? But you're right, you can not just survive, but you can succeed and you can flourish here. You're absolutely right. I'm so happy you came and said that strongly because everyone needs to hear it. We do need more Olim. We do need more doctors. I would love an English-speaking doctor. I don't have any. I don't have one down
Sorry.
here. But
right, you obviously don't live in Efrat.
I don't. But things will change, and the more English speakers who come here, the country will it will change. The character will change, and we can do it slowly. We can do it, and
right.
just one step at a time, and there will be lots of little Efrats, in the next 10 years, I think. And thank you so much. I've got to go to a commercial break. Thank you so much, Jonathan Wiesen, MediOrbis. We'll be right back.
All right, thank you.
Hi, everyone. This is Andrea Siminto from Jerusalem, inviting you to drop everything and join me on my show, Pull Up a Chair. We'll visit this week's quirky stories, meet fabulous guests, and discover my Israel. Together, we'll laugh, shout, and explain the topics that make us say, hey, we've got to talk about that. So get comfortable and pull up a chair with me, Andrea Siminto, every Thursday on Israel News Talk Radio.
Hidden treasures in the Hebrew Bible?
Then join me, Rav Yitzhak Michelson,
and me, William Hall,
on the Science of Kabbalah, where we are seeking to narrow the gap between what we understand of our physical and spiritual worlds. So make sure to tune in every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Israel time, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, here on Israel News Talk Radio.
Psalm 23, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Did you know this psalm and many others were composed by a Jewish shepherd and musician who later became a king? Would you like to know some of the inner meanings of psalms to help you connect with God and strengthen your soul? An exciting and easy-to-read book is now available which will help you do just that. Software for the Soul, Psalms for Everyone, available on Kindle, Audible, and Amazon.com. Software for the Soul.
Modesty at the beach? It isn't just about body image. It's about feeling good. Modest swimsuits, so we don't get burned by the sun.
So we won't get ogled by strangers.
So we'll feel free to express ourselves without the need to expose ourselves.
Let Marcy Modest help you to cover up what you want, how you want.
Made in Israel.
Visit marcymodest.com. That's MARSEA modest.com.
And get a 10% discount on your first purchase.
2 new shows on Israel News Talk Radio.
The return of the Jewish people to the land of Israel was prophesied in the Bible thousands of years ago and is coming true today. Shalom. Join me, Josh Wander, on Israel Unplugged. Listen in as we delve into the spiritual and physical aspects of the Jewish return to Zion. We'll discuss the biblically mandated, historic, and of course practical understandings of this incredible transition from exile to redemption. That's Israel Unplugged, every Monday on IsraelNewsTalkRadio.com.
How did a nice Jewish girl from Delaware end up living in Israel? Shalom, I'm Natalie Sapinski. Join me on my show, Returning Home. Meet different people who have moved to Israel. Hear their personal stories, their highs, their lows, and everything in between. Each week, we talk to experts on immigration and the process of moving to Israel. Listen to Returning Home every Thursday, only on Israel News Talk Radio. And welcome back to Returning Home. I am Natalie Sapinski, and we just finished speaking with a very interesting man, Jonathan Wiesen from Efrat with MediOrbis, who does telemedicine. And, it's funny that he works down here in the south in Beersheba in Soroka Hospital, because I've never met any English-speaking doctor since I've been here. Down here, all our doctors are Russian and Israeli. And this is very exciting. He just made a joke saying, you obviously don't live in Efrat. Well, yeah, I don't. Efrat has about 20,000 people today. They have high rises going up. It is so comfortable there. It is really a beautiful, growing city, such a symbol of progress for Anglos in Israel. If you are not sure where to move in Israel, move to Efrat. You will find friends and you will be fine. It's funny, but, when you do look for a place to live, like when we look to live here, there are certain questions you ask, and there are certain questions maybe you forget to ask. I guess it depends how organized you are, but I never thought to ask, is there a doctor here? how far is the hospital? We didn't even think of that. What I did know to ask, and what was important to me, is that there was a pool, a swimming pool. And we have one here in Susia. It's an outdoor pool. It's where the field school is. And right now, in our region, we are the only pool open. They've been closed for different reasons, mostly to fix them up. And that all happened before Corona. And because that took on such harsh measures, no work has been done for even the pool north of Efrat, the pool in Gush Etzion and Alon Shvut, one in Kiryat Arba. So all these swimmers are coming here. And I'm the lifeguard here. I've been the lifeguard here since 2011. And the reason I became the lifeguard here was because when we came to Susia and went to the pool, I was horrified by what I saw. I was raised swimming. We had a place in the summer we went with pools, and it was very organized, a summer house. And we had a pool even in our backyard. And swimming was very important to our family. My mother was even a WSI instructor, if anyone remembers that. It means water safety instructor back in the 50s. So we were all lifeguards at a very young age. I did the course when I was 15 in a lake in a summer camp. But I came here with my small children, and I saw kids running around in their underwear, doing somersaults off the edge, no parents. Lifeguard was reading a book. No, I was horrified. And at that time, I had small boys. I have 4 boys and a girl. And the pool here is divided between men and women. So I could take them all, when they were small, to the women's hours. But once the boys get older, first grade, they can't go to the women's hours anymore. And I saw that I was going to have to let my boys go alone to this madhouse. And I went to the manager, and I said to him, isn't there something you can do? Can't you have games, races, some kind of recreational director in there to organize things? Well, the guy looked at me like I was crazy and said, you want to do something? You become lifeguard. You do what you want. So I did. I took the course. I was 41 years old. My husband took the course too. And he trained in Yerushalayim, and he got in. I didn't get in. I wasn't fast enough. So I had to train to get accepted to the course. And I did. I trained, I got accepted, and I trained in Lahavim, which is a city north of Beersheba. And my coach was Russian, about 6'5", and he was like an ex-Olympian. And I was the only woman. Everybody was about 18, 19. And I did this course, and I drove there 45 minutes for about 3 weeks and did this swimming intense lifeguard course. And I'll tell you something very interesting about this course. Well, I was the only religious person, and the instructor was not, he was blonde. I don't think he was Jewish. I don't think so. But he came like many Russians came in the 80s, and he must have grown up here, because when he was explaining to us how to do the breaststroke, he explained it, that you bring your arms down and you bring them up like you're doing tefillah, like you're praying. And this is a secular adult, completely secular, not religious at all. And I could not believe that he was explaining a swimming motion by using a religious gesture, a religious term. I was very impressed. And it showed me that everyone here is connected to religion in some level, in some way, in a proud way. It's hard to explain. I was very impressed, because I grew up in America, as I told you, and I was quiet about being Jewish. And I don't know if it would be a proud thing to refer to praying as a way to describe a swim stroke. Anyway, I finished the course, and I became the lifeguard, and I started making changes here. And I started running weekly races, and the children time each other. And I have it all written down. I have one kid write down the times and the names. I have other kids use their watches to time them. I blow the whistle, and everything gets published and sent to the newspaper here, and the newspapers in the area. This has been going on for years. And what has happened here is the culture has changed. Now nobody's wearing their underwear at the pool, and they're not doing backflips and they're not running around. Now they're swimming and they're racing and they're timing each other and they're practicing. And the younger children remember their older brothers and sisters racing. And it has developed into a much more serious, respectful swimming pool and experience for the kids here. I grew up with races and it was normal, and you swim and you take the pool seriously, no running, no dunking. It's changed. It's changed here. And it's very exciting to be part of that. My children have also grown up with me here as a lifeguard, for better or for worse. But my oldest son is now a lifeguard at the southern Omer and Meitar, two big communities south of us, outside Beersheba. He's 18. And my other children will do the course also when they're 18. You have to be 17 and 9 months to do the course here. And I teach a class here called Junior Lifeguards, Metzilim Tzirim. This is our second season. And at the end of the summer, there's a big regional race. And I got funding from the local council, the regional council. And I even have a sponsor. And there are T-shirts and there are medals. And there's a buzz. There's a buzz about this every year. And the kids remember it and they look forward to it. And they remember when their big brothers were doing it. And so they can't wait to be able to do it too. So that's very nice. And I'll tell you, everybody who comes here from America or from England or from France or wherever you come from, here, not everything is so developed. I mean, they were running around in their underwear here. I cannot tell you what I just couldn't believe it. And I came in here and I changed things. Me, who am I? I'm just an average person. But I wanted to change and nobody stopped me. And if you come here and you have energy and you have a desire and you keep your eye on the ball, you can make big changes. And there are changes to be made. Israel is a young country. We're 72 years young. And not every place is developed. Some places still don't have sidewalks. We don't have road signs. There are places that are just starting out. And you can make a very big difference. It's almost like, you feel like you've come from the future. We, for instance, don't have a tennis court here. These kids learn tennis in school. There's a Russian teacher who comes from Arad and teaches them. And they string a net across the front of the school, the entrance. There's no court. And the kids learn tennis like that, and then they take it down. They've never seen a tennis court, these kids. They don't have tennis rackets, and they do not play tennis, and no one in their family plays tennis. But it's, how amazing would it be if they could play tennis, if they had a real court, just like they never saw swim races. They didn't know what I was talking about. There's certain things they just don't have. They do things like they light fires and they do tuna in the fire and they make tea on the court and they do hiking and they jump and they go into wells and they explore caves, and archaeology is big here. Archaeology is a very big, it's a big field here. It's not like some dusty, archaic science. Archaeology in Israel is live. And that is also something I discovered. I was once hitchhiking. I'll tell you about that when we come back, but I do hitchhike. Many of us do. And I was picked up by an archaeologist. And I was very, I didn't know who he was at first. And when he told me who he was, I was very excited. He gave me his book. He told me who he was. Archaeology here is live and it's ongoing all the time. And it's connecting, and it has connected our children. It connects them and connects all of us to the land in a very, very meaningful and strong way that I don't think exists when you're a foreigner. Here, this is ours. So you're not really a foreigner. You're a Jew in Judea. And you are touching and living in history, even if you're not religious, and even if you never knew these stories. I live where King David met Abigail, and I didn't know that story, but I learned it because it's here, and everybody just knows about that story, how King David was a shepherd out here. And everywhere you live in Israel, there's stories. History is very, very alive. Things here are either very, very old or very, very new. And like I said, you can make a difference in the very, very new, the very small communities that are underdeveloped, which are beautiful, and they need energy and they need American guts and they need energy. And I'm not talking about being young. I'm talking about your attitude. And I know it's coming, and a wave is coming, and we're just going to ride it all the way. And I'm very excited to be part of it. And I hope all of you listening call in with questions and tell me what you think. Just look at the top of your screen and dial in. We'll be right back.
Leap of Faith with Penina Taylor.
We live in the age of information, but not inspiration. If you're like me, you're looking to be inspired to reach higher, to connect more, and to grow. Well, if you want to get warm, you need to stand close to the fire. And if you want to catch fire, you need to stand close enough to get hit by the sparks. Join me, Penina Taylor, as we walk with people who have embarked on a spiritual journey towards Torah. We'll uncover what started them on their journey and what truths they discovered along the way. So prepare to be inspired as we take a leap of faith every Sunday at 5 p.m. on Israel News Talk Radio.
Hi there, this is Natalie Sapinski, and we are listening to Returning Home. Thank you for joining us, and we're going to continue a little bit on what I was just talking about, because I got some questions during the break, and one of them was, is it true you can hitchhike in Israel? And I thought everybody knew you can hitchhike in Israel. We call it tremping, and it's very common in these parts, in Judea and Samaria, where I live. And even my children tramp. I tramp too. I'll tell you why. First of all, cars are very, very expensive, and many families only have one. For many years, we had one. So you need to get somewhere. You can either take a bus, and bus is also not so frequent in some parts, or you put out your finger. Here, you point your finger, and you get a ride. Now, it's not like you're in the middle of Kansas and you don't know anybody. There are bus stations and hitchhiking stations all over the place. This is normal. So you'll wait there, and people who pick you up are also people, some of them you know. If you wait, for instance, outside my yeshuv, I'm going to know most of the people going by, because they're either going to be from here or they're going to be from the yeshuv down the street. And we know each other. This is kind of like one big JCC. That's how I always think of it. We have 20 yeshuvim in my region, Har Hebron. And I've seen them, these people, there's teachers at the school, or their mothers that I've seen. Maybe it's the nurse from the clinic. Our lives are kind of tight. They're tight. So we do see each other at the store. You know each other. You see each other. And even once I was in the car, and the woman knew me. I didn't know her. And she told me, Natalie, you're too close to the road. You really should stand further back. And I said, who are you? And she said, I'm so-and-so. I'm so-and-so's mother. And she knew me. I have lots of stories. I have a story of someone who picked me up once. He offered me a job. I have a story of somebody coming from a bakery, and he thought I was too skinny. And he gave me, it was sugvaniot, donuts. It was Hanukkah time. And he put the box on my lap and opened them up and said, take it, eat, you're too skinny. I've had, rides where I'm in the car and I realize the couple is going to the doctor and they just had a baby. And this is the first time in the car ever. And you realize, how nervous they are. All kinds of stories. And, you take a ride for all kinds of reasons. I used to take a ride just to go to the bookstore. In Kiryat Arba, I needed a ride to go to Yerushalayim, to go to a meeting. If I needed to go to the bank in Beersheba, I would take a ride. Tramping. You take a tramp, or you're a trampist. It's part of the lingo here. It's part of the culture. It's part of the language. And I pick up people now. Now I have a car. I pick people up all the time. And, a lot of them are students, my kids' age, a lot of them are teachers, and it's very normal and it's safe in the sense of you're not going to be hurt. You're not going to be killed. These are not criminals you're getting in the car with. Now, you have the normal dangers. Okay, somebody might be a bad driver. That's always there, right? I always tell my children, tramp with somebody with a big mouth. Don't go with someone who's timid, because sometimes these are people that your kids don't know. And you want to be with someone who's gregarious and who is friendly and who is not shy, because they have a chance of getting the driver to talk, you find out who they are, and it's just a safer situation. But, my kids go all over. My 14-year-old just went up to the Kinneret, the Lake of Galilee. I think you call it the Sea of Galilee up there. That's like far. And he took rides. So that's part of life here, and it just shows you that it's like old-fashioned that way here. You can trust people. It's very, very nice, and it's very, very different than the way I grew up. I never hitchhiked. I never even saw a hitchhiker, and I think the only reason I knew there was such a thing as hitchhikers is because there's some kind of scary book about the hitchhikers. Hitchhiker's Guide. I don't know. It's just not. It wasn't done where I grew up and when I grew up. But summers here in Israel, you're going to see a lot of hitchhikers on the road because of the traveling and the vacations. The kids are out and traveling, and it's hot. And, summers here are different. Summers here are different than the way I grew up. But different can be good. It's not as structured. I mean, I just told you how the pool couldn't even get it together to have any activities for the kids, but there's not really summer camp here the way there's summer camp in the States. I grew up every year going to summer camp. I went to camp till I was like 16 years old. I went to day camp when I was younger. I went to overnight camp when I became 10, 11. And then I went to music camp when I was a teenager in Maine. I flew there on an airplane, okay? Here, they don't have stuff like that. Summers here are shorter. They're only 2 months. And the families travel and take vacations in August. And Tisha B'Av, the 9 days, which has started today, kind of dictates a lot of your activity for religious families. At least the 9 days are a very serious time, and you're not supposed to have fun or entertainment. There's no weddings, there's no parties, there's no music, there's no shopping for anything new. It's serious, and you feel it. You feel that in Israel. Just like you feel every holiday here. It's very, very clear. The holidays here are very clear. It's the weather, it's seasonal. And, we are and we were farmers and land people. And, when it's Sukkot here, you're having dates, you're having tamarim, you're under the big leaves, which are the date trees. It just makes sense. I mean, look out, you see them all over Israel, these date trees, and that's Sukkot, when the harvest comes in. And Passover also. You feel spring in the air. Everything here has a special feeling and the special meaning. And it's different, and instead of having so much structure, the kids here do find their way, and they have just different experiences. And it's sad in a way. I used to think that my kids aren't going to know going to the beach the way I knew going to the beach, and they're not going to know about tennis clinic the way I did a tennis clinic, or anything that I had. And that's all right. They don't have to be just like me. They're just having a different life. They will have different memories. They will have different experiences, and that's part of being an immigrant. It's part of making a new life. And just like I tell them also when they complain, we don't have any family here. I said, well, you will. There is always a first generation. And all you listeners out there who are on the fence about moving here, who have maybe, flirted with the idea, do not wait. Don't wait. And don't wait till your kids get old. That is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Wait till your kids are finished this, or wait till your kids are that. Only come when they're young. Not at all. Okay? Happy mommy, happy child. That's how it's going to be. The kids will follow you. If you have a strong attitude and a positive attitude, your kids are going to follow you no matter how old they are. My kids came, they were 2 and 3, so I don't have the struggles of a teenager, but I see them because we have a family who came here with like a 12-year-old, a 17-year-old, a 9-year-old, no Hebrew at all. They knew no Hebrew, and they made it. They succeeded. Their kids are in the army now. The girls are in Shevut Lamit. They're a beautiful family, and they live here. Okay, this is Susia. There are no Anglos here. I am one of 2 American families. This is not a place Anglos come. This is an Israeli community, but there are options. And if you're worried about making friends and your children not speaking Hebrew and wanting to have English friends, go to Efrat, go to Beit Shemesh, go to Ra'anana, go to Yerushalayim. There are other places. There are built-up cities where it will be an easier starting point. There are options. There are choices. And, in some sense, there are too many choices. But don't worry about that, Just come and you'll find your way. You don't need to make this grand decision, where am I going to live? And that's where you're going to live for the next 20 years. Not at all. You can move. People move, okay? Not just foreigners move. Israelis move. They move all the time. I know families here have built their own homes and then they move. Okay, they just do for whatever reason. They don't cling to material things here. Life is very short. They grow up fast, the kids grow up fast, and they see that life is short, and they don't wait. They do things now. And when I was at Hebrew University all those years ago, I remember that attitude. I remember that teseh chayim is what they say. It means do life. It means live. Live now. It's something I remember taking with me and keeping close. And I hope I have passed that on, and I'm sure my children have absorbed it from their own environment here, because they do things. They're busy. They get on the bus and they'll go to Eilat. They'll take a tramp and they'll take hitchhikes up to the lake for overnight. They do it, and I'm glad because life is short, and I don't want to have regrets, and I don't want them to have regrets either. So that's if there's anything I can share with my listeners today, it's don't wait. Do what you can, and not every T needs to be crossed, and not every I needs to be dotted. Okay, we don't know what tomorrow will bring, so do what you can today. And even if you're tired, right, and even if it isn't perfect, you should do things. And that's something I've learned. So thank you for listening, and I'll speak to you next week.
If you love Israel News Talk Radio, then you'll love our Facebook page. We keep you up to date on what's happening in Israel, plus little surprise treasures that we don't share on the radio. Go now to follow us on Facebook. Just look for the Israel News Talk Radio Facebook page, and don't forget to subscribe and follow us by clicking on the like button. We post great stuff there that you'll want to share. Israel News Talk Radio on Facebook and Israel News Radio on Twitter.
If you're hearing this message, everyone else can too. Advertise with Israel News Talk Radio and get your message out to people. We'll build a personalized package for you. Contact advertising at israelnewstalkradio.com.
Straight talk from Israel. You're listening to Israel News Talk Radio.
Hey, this is Jake in Anchorage, Alaska, and I love listening to all the super interesting interviews and up-to-date information on what's happening in Israel.
Hello, this is Anna King, originally from London, now living in Israel. And what can I say? Israel News Talk Radio is my cup of tea.
My name is Bhaskar. I'm from India, and I love listening because you get to know the truth and wonderful voices from this lovely country.
Mom!
Okay, wait a minute.
Hi, this is Chava Dax, and I'm calling from the rolling hills of Ma'ale Adumim, just north of Jerusalem. I always listen to Israel News Talk Radio to get all the latest news and commentary and to keep me up to date every day.
This is Sarah Da from Malaya Jamim, and I'm 12. I wish Israel News Talk Radio was boring so my mom wouldn't listen to it all the time. Mom!
You're listening to Israel News Talk Radio.
News, opinion, and more. You're listening to Israel News Talk Radio.